Can't expense my bike rides home? Okay, then I'll take very expensive Ubers instead. I have recently started a new job and one of the perks is that if you work late, you can have a free dinner and then take an Uber back home. However, I much prefer renting an electric bike back home. You know, the ones on the sidewalk. It's faster, much better for the environment, fun, and a great way to decompress after a long days of work. After a month of that, I send my expense report, but they refuse to pay back the bike rides, saying I need to use Uber. This annoyed me as if it was more than £100. So I decided to use an Uber for the following month, making sure to choose exec each time. Next month, my late night ride expenses increased by almost 5x. Needless to say, they strongly encouraged me to get back on the bike and offered to buy me a subscription if available. Unfortunately, it's not. I'm amazed someone actually had the sense to own up to their mistake and encourage you to get back on that bike. At my company, they'd have paid the Uber expense with a smile and pat themselves on the back about getting everyone to follow the standard procedure regardless of the extra cost. I got called in by our CFO for a 25 cents parking receipt near Wall Street in NYC. He wanted to know, where in all of New York City can you park your car for 25 cents? Municipal lot for 10 minutes instead of checking it into a parking garage while I dropped by that office. Sue. They reimbursed my quarter, lol. Can you ask them to buy you a bike rather than a subscription? Even suggest the idea of a company-owned bike that is loaned to you for the duration of your employment and you can return for the next employee when you leave. I hope you only agreed on the condition they would pay your original expense report. Lol, just tell them, no. I used to like the bike, but now that I tried Uber I like that more. Thanks for introducing me to Uber. Quote, my company would only pay for parking when visiting clients in downtown Los Angeles. I had equipment so I'd park in the big towers. $52 a day back then. And that was 7 years ago now. Lots of complaints and requests to park blocks away, but they certainly wouldn't reimburse Uber, taxi. So dumb. I had a thing like this. I was going to Hawaii for a work trip. I'd never been, and didn't know if I'd ever go again. I wanted to take my wife and kids and bring my mom along to see Hawaii and do some babysitting. I found a condo I could rent that was close to where I'd work. It had 2 bedrooms and cost less than the beachfront hotel they were going to put me in. The travel chick went nuts. This is a work trip, not your personal vacation. I just went to my boss, explained it was less expensive. Game over. Take this with a grain of salt. But here we go. Former employer provided childcare services for corporations. This meant I would meet people from various multinational companies. A dad who was an avid city biker was super psyched that City Bike was coming to this section of Manhattan. I remember seeing them set up the racks, bring in the bikes, etc. Flash forward to a day where he's in a mood during child pickup. He shares that his employer was refusing to cover the City Bike cost. His stance was same as yours, saying he'll just take cabs, rideshare to spite the company, even though it's spitting himself by not getting to ride. The rationale behind the decision was that the company would be liable if he were to get in an accident, that their paying for his bike rental could be seen as encouraging him to partake in a risky activity. With a car service, you're covered under their insurance if you're in an accident. I never looked into myself, and I've heard of various companies that do and do not cover bike commuting. For what it's worth, they reimburse the original $100 yet? Otherwise tell them to piss off. It's odd that they came back and offered to get you a subscription. Lol. Until I saw that. I was going to suggest it could be an insurance issue. As in, they only reimburse for transportation where you aren't the driver. Worked with an engineer who told me at his previous job he often had to travel. Their office was in a business center that was an hour and a half from the airport by car. However, there was a helicopter service that did the trip in 10 minutes or so. So that's what he used. Head office, overseas, took exception to this when they finally noticed it in his expense account. Told him to take a taxi in future. Helicopter cost was $50. They only took off when they had 4 passengers. You could book and they would tell you the likely takeoff time. So walk out off the office 5 minutes down the street and be at the airport 10 minutes later. Taxis. Book it and hope it turns up on time. So leave 2.5 hours beforehand just in case it didn't and for traffic holdups. And it would cost $8,090. No budging them on it. Because it wasn't a good look. Years. And years and years ago I used occasionally fly for work. When I flew, I had my luggage, a heavy toolbox, and 23 equipment cases that weighed 5080 hash. This was when you could slip the luggage porters along the sidewalk $2,040 and they would check your luggage and get it on the conveyors without weighing it. Saved a ton of money in overweight and additional baggage fees. My boss complained about the less than $100 on my expense report for these tips. Said to stop and just check the luggage like normal. Next trip, I had over $300 each way in baggage fees. He saw the light and told me to start tipping the porters again. My suspicion is that the employer didn't want to face the liability of you getting on a bike, having an accident, and then wanting to sue the company because you drove while exhausted. At my company, they do it because they don't want you driving when tired. So they would not want someone taking a bike home. I love this. Corporations rarely ever admit that they're wrong. Kudos! Exclamation mark. Well played, sir. Worked for the Govt. We got rental cars except when in Wash, D.C. where we were required to use the subway. I suppose Manhattan would be the same but never traveled there. Play stupid games. Win stupid prizes. Did they have no other employees who called Uber to get home? How could they fail to check their expense reports to see how much more it cost the company than it would to pay for your bike rentals? This is about them not wanting to be liable in the event you have an accident. Something that could cost far more than the Uber. They're trying to avoid you being tired and in control of a vehicle and getting blamed as a result. Edit. What they should be doing is making it so you don't have to work late. But they're clearly getting greedy if they're wanting to stop the Uber. Great MC. And thanks for writing concisely.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.